Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Stop Loss Investor. My name is Sai, and today we're focused on Palantir at work. So in this video, we're going to be looking at what Palantir, not only what Palantir offers to companies, but how they are being utilized at these companies and how that utilization is actually helping their businesses grow, also, whilst also preserving the workers that work there and not just displacing them with by using data analytics or machine learning. So now we're going to go over three things in this presentation. The first is the three pillars of innovation with jobs that the CEO Alex Karp talks about, and that is a big driver of Palantir's innovation. And next, we're going to look at the case studies that Palantir lays out, such as the how it's been utilized in industries such as healthcare and finance, as well as in the media space and a few other industries. And finally, we're gonna have a look at my thoughts of this company, and we're gonna go over what I think will be the future of not just Palantir, but how technology will evolve with humans, and how this kind of innovation can be a widespread use case and a widespread driver for revenue for the company Palantir. So I believe this kind of before we go into it, I believe this kind of having a look at what the actual company does, not from a company perspective, but from a customer perspective, not just looking at what the stock or the CEO or anyone like that says, but having a look at what the actual users or the customers say about the company, how they grow their revenue, how they are actually using the company to grow their revenue, and to see how vital it is within that company, how sticky it is within the company's infrastructure. And I believe a lot of companies that are being IPO'd these days, a lot of companies put by social capital, other such companies such as BigCommerce, Snowflake, CrowdStrike, they're big companies. We have a pretty good idea of what they do, but we're not too sure of how they're being utilized by their customers. We just know that they, companies such as Snowflake, they work in the data analytics space, in the cloud center space, but no one really knows what they do. We know that Warren Buffett invested in it, but we don't know how they're being utilized by the customers themselves, to see how important it is to them and how easy it is for them to switch out of Snowflake and maybe come over to a company such as Palantir. So with that being said, I'll go on to the next slide. So in this slide, as I said, we're going to look at the three pillars of innovation with jobs. So the first pillar for Palantir is using tech as a lever. So they believe that people and technology work best when they work together. Second is their intuitive design approach, where technology should meet people where they are. So essentially, the idea behind that is allowing workers in a manufacturing plant being able to use software to drive revenues, to drive insights, rather than having that manufacturing plant bring data analytics teams in, and having this kind of knowledge gap where the data analytics company doesn't know too much. For example, if you look at a company such as Airbus, or any car manufacturing company, I wouldn't think the data analyst would know. They would just know how to analyze the data, but they wouldn't know how it would affect in terms of a car company, how it would affect their growth there and things like that. But the actual mechanics, they would know what works. Or the salespeople who sell cars, they would know what works. And all they have to do is have this data at hand to be able to analyze it. So that's an approach that they take when they're designing Palantir for these customers. And the third is the digital health and data protection approach. Digital health looks at the addictiveness of technology, how most companies such as Facebook, Google, Apple look to capitalize on human inefficiencies essentially, to build technologies rather than trying to help humans uh, mold those inefficiencies, or like not mold, um, take out those inefficiencies initially and just arm them with these tools to be more efficient. And second is the data protection side of things, where that inefficiency is then mined by these companies and sold to other companies to infiltrate and penetrate and exploit to make even more money of consumers. And Palantir doesn't really look to work in that space, and they believe that technology should protect workers and promote safety. And in terms of workers, we can see a lot of companies these days are rolling out technology to monitor their workers to make sure they're always doing the things that they should be doing, which is good, but they can always, go over the line where they have 24/7, not 24/7, but 9 to 5 essentially, eyes on you. And anytime you do anything, there's regulatory actions from the company on the workers, or it can just doesn't feel like work anymore. That you more or less either have to become a machine or be uh, become obsolete essentially for that company. And Palantir doesn't really look at that business model. They don't really believe in that business model, and they're trying to focus on arming that same worker with technology to make him more valuable. And so they've gone on to say that the development of technology and deployment should not be solely allocated to software engineers, data scientists, or machines, and that when those on the front lines contribute to its formation and use, the outcome is far greater than relying on machine or human alone. And as the experience and skills of the employees continue to be more decisive, it will not be the machines, but the people behind them who will make the decisions that will drive the development of humans. And that's a very important paragraph there. It's really important to see that workers aren't these everyday workers aren't these expendable people where you can bring one out and bring one in. Um, these days, most work is becoming that, where they are given a set tasks, and you have to do it more fastly and or faster and faster and faster, to the point where it just becomes routine. And once they're able to calibrate it to a point, they'll bring a machine in your place, and then you're without a job. And Palantir doesn't believe in that. Palantir looks at that and machine goes, well, how can we make him more vertically integrated? Because right now he just has to go faster. That worker has to just work faster if he's going to be valuable to the company. And as humans, we have a limit to how fast we can do things, and so and it doesn't really work for the mental health of the worker anyway. But if you give them more tools and give them more control over the decisions of even if it's that particular process, by using data to see how we can make this process more efficient in a different way, but still use a worker. I think they believe that's more important, and that's more vertically integrated with the company. Um, so that's their real approach to their technology. So from there, we're going to look at a few case studies, and the first case study is come from media. So in media, they had a case study where Palantir was working with a national broadcast network who launched its own streaming platform to stay competitive with digital entrants. And the digital customer journey generates a massive amount of data, such as click streams, payments, subscriptions, viewership, and more. And but the systems that captured this data were soiled, and data quality was inconsistent. Basically, so without a holistic view of the customers, the network struggled to answer questions relating to marketing ROI and customer lifetime value. So this is basically focused on acquiring and retaining streaming customers. That's the basic idea for this company, and that's why they used Palantir. And so the solution Palantir came up with was integrating subscriber data into Foundry, their software platform, and the network created a holistic view of all subscribers and their interactions. So now both technical and non-technical teams drive critical business workflows such as cohort creation for targeted campaigns. So basically, by creating a cohorts quickly and integrating them with Salesforce, the network can continuously A/B test new customer acquisition strategies. The second thing that Palantir implemented was instantaneous calculation of expected revenue for each customer segment. So reliable CLV metrics. And the third point is where they used their understanding of how their actions impact the customer's journey through the platform. So they arm the technical and non-technical teams with understanding of how the customer used their platform, with whether it be tracking marketing channels, or product improvements, the network now understands how their actions impact the customer journey through their platform. And two big points here is first is the fact that this is not things that the company Palantir build up. Like the data isn't Palantir's, first of all. The data is the streaming platform created by the broadcast network. And all Palantir did was create a data analytics tool which helped the technical and non-technical teams. So that could be their marketing analyst, data analyst that could be within the company that were trying to see how they can grow their revenues on a technical side of things. And then they're also their actual sales teams. There could be people on the phones, people who might be designing websites, who might be designing products, who might be doing the actual sales pitches, writing the content side of things, and use both of them to see how they could really drive their use cases within this solution. And essentially, the main thing there is that the data is already owned by that company. So that's the data that's been approved by the consumer or the customer, and they allowed this broadcast network to use the data. And all Palantir did was, let's see how we can make it use it more to become more targeted, so it gives them a better understanding. And essentially, the second point would be the consultation revenue generator. So this is their consultation segment. So for a big part of their company life, Palantir has been known as a consultation company more than a software development or a data analytics company. They were known to be software engineers at first, but they brought these software engineers in to kind of give an understanding of, well, how can we do this better? And they consulted with the companies that they worked with, and with regards to the targeted campaigns, to regards to how the Foundry and their other products got them, can be used to drive growth, and also teach the employees themselves that are working for this broadcast network in this case, to see how they can use Foundry. So basically, you could assume, as Palantir says in their S1, this could be the first phase where they send the software engineers, aka consultants, and they go into the company and they speak with their marketing analyst, data analyst, whoever's there, who takes care of these things, show them how the software works, so show them how it can be utilized, show them how to create the networks, and then from there teach them what to look out for. But that's it. That's all the software side of things that they're going to give them. The actual, the marketing analyst has to do their job as a marketer and use their knowledge to bring the most out of this software. So the consultation and the marketing side of things brought together, bring out this solution for this particular company. And from there, the impact was, in one key campaign, engagement of a target group increased by 300%. The network launched five more campaigns over the same period, and the decisions on how to allocate marketing budgets are now fully data-driven, maximizing revenue and return on investment. Took a while to get that one out. So that's the first media case that they did. Very successful, as you can see, with regards to the engagement. Also, how many times they kept on using these campaigns. So I'm assuming they haven't really laid that out as to whether the company used it, but I would think with these kinds of impacts, the company would keep on using Foundry to generate these revenues. And obviously, being data driven now, they have to use Foundry to create a holistic view of all their subscribers and their interactions. So next we move on to the industry of logistics. So here they focused on improving high stakes customer service. And the challenge was a global logistics company receives thousands of invoice related inquiries from customers every day. And basically, with no simple way of determining the validity of an inquiry, representatives often resorted to discounting invoices to preserve customer satisfaction. So they were basically not looking through everything, and they were just going, "Oh, okay, we're sorry for that. Here's a discount." Never looked at the validity of it. As you can see, they're receiving thousands every day, and obviously, manual labor can only go so far with regards to these things. So what they do, they keep their workers there, and they arm them with Foundry, and so they didn't use Foundry to displace the workers. They said your workers can now use Foundry to actually look at the inquiries every day and see what needs to be actioned how. So they focused on intelligent inquiry routing, where customer service representatives have a complete view of all inquiries with integrated data from 10 plus systems. Machine indexing automatically routes incoming inquiries to the correct department. Human reviewers then audit customer service actions to continuously improve the indexing model. So there we can see that human reviewers then audit the customer service actions. So the human who were already there before are still there now. It's just they had to make it, I guess, more efficient in terms of how it gets to that human. Because before that was a real problem there because they were seeing thousands every day. No one knew which one was for what. And it made it hard for them to discount or understand the validity of the inquiry. And therefore, they were just discounting invoice, just they will do probably 100 or 150, and they were like, the rest of them, if there's too many, just give them a discount. We need the customer's business more than this particular invoice that we get on this particular day. So that was the first solution that they came up with. Second is the inquiry context and analytics, where automated logic helps representatives identify the cause of an inquiry so they can give customers a clear explanation for the invoice. To help navigate the discussion, representatives are provided with historical context about the inquiry, such as previous emails and invoices. That's fantastic. That's pretty straightforward. I would have thought this would be implemented with the company already, but that's awesome for the company itself to have their so we can see how old school these companies are. They didn't have any kind of data history laid out in their solutions, and so that being able to see, okay, so this customer talked 6 months ago, then we talked to them again 3 months ago, then we talked to them 1 month ago. Here's how it progressed so far. This is what they've talked about so far, and now we can follow up. We can have a back and forth chat, and this is something they would have done before, except the customer service representative wouldn't have any idea as to what's going on because he didn't have any historical context of it. So every time they called, it was basically a new conversation. So the next one we have is the approval workflows that they used, where customer service representative diagnose the issue and record the outcome of the inquiry. So together, these inputs automatically kick off approval, correction workflows across the organization. And from there, we can see that all these things are consultation revenues, where not only the software side of things, which is given out on a subscription basis, but once again, the software engineers will come in, show them how to, what is this intelligent inquiry routing? Like, how does that work? You might not need to know the ins and outs, like, you don't need to be a software engineer to kind of use this, but just to know what it does is important. Just like I don't need to know how Microsoft created PowerPoint, but it would be nice for me to know how to use the various animations, designs, um, different end screens, even this, like a presentation view, slideshow view, how to change the background, other things like that, So it's like all this can go a long way in terms of making my presentation easier for my viewers, customers, whoever. But at the end of the day, I don't need to be a software engineer to understand what's happening here. So that's essentially what that is about. And obviously for me, I didn't have any Microsoft consultant come over and tell me how to use a PowerPoint. I just kind of played around with it. But for big companies, such as a global logistic company, the consultation is required so their workers can be trained appropriately and properly and efficiently and on time so they can just get back to work and do what they do best. And so the impact that this created for this company is the company increased annual collections by more than $50 million, and the number of invoice related inquiries decreased by 10%, which goes a long way if you're receiving 1,000 every day. So next we're going to look at the manufacturing side of things. It's a little bit different from logistics. And here they focused on improving vehicle quality and ratings. So the challenge them in this scenario was quality teams at a major automaker could not access or connect in-service vehicle data to plant level manufacturing processes. And so basically without key information on part performance in the field, it was impossible to proactively identify and improve emerging issues in the quality control lifecycle. So we can see what the problem is there. Like just reading that sentence and reading those statements, we can see how big of a problem it could be for an automaker where they don't know how, like the servicing that they're doing for the cars, like how can they make this car better? Because especially if I'm a car owner and every 2 years or every 1 year, a particular part of my car is breaking and I take it to service and I get it fixed, and that service data is not going into the company to make a better car essentially. So yes, I have a really bad car, but the next time I go to buy a car and realize that, or look at the ratings of the car, um, and see that the next car that they built isn't any better. It does the same thing. It breaks every day. I'm just going to switch to a different automaker who's going to give me not just better service, but better parts, but like a longer life cycle of the car. So if I buy a 20 grand car, I want to make sure that that car lasts me for at least 15 years or 10 years, I don't want to take it in um, every 6 months to get it fixed. Obviously, I've got to do the servicing, but I don't want to actually get it fixed for that reason. Uh, um, Servicing just makes the car better quality to be on road, but I don't want the car to be not roadworthy. And this is important for the automakers to make sure that they can make these efficiencies happen. So not only do they get less um, uh, bad like ratings in their manufacturing, but they can actually improve and focus on other things rather than just fixing old things. And so here the solution was that Palantir came up with in conjunction with the engineers at the manufacturing plant is identify emerging issues where the automaker integrates data from warranty claims, diagnostics, dealers, connected vehicle sensors, and vehicle metadata into a shared data asset across plants, and automated pattern matching services trending defects so that teams can proactively address them and share local fixes with the entire organization. So that shows how much I actually know about cars. I just talked about my small experience, but we can see that the automaker actually uses data or can use data essentially from warranty claims, diagnostics, dealers, connected vehicle sensors, and vehicle metadata. I don't even know what vehicle metadata is, but it's important, apparently. I think it is. Moving on. Next, we have prioritizing issues for investigation. So where issues are automatically ranked for investigation, allowing engineers to address the most pressing and costly defects first. Obviously important. And next on from there is operating on universal quality KPIs. So the unified data environment allows both assembly parts and C-suite executives to operate on the same set of quality KPIs and performance metrics. So we can see that the people on the ground floor at the machine level working on the cars, fixing them, have the same performance indicators as the company CEOs would, who would look at the direction of the company and make sure that everyone's in line and going in the right direction, focusing on the same numbers. And the impact this created for the company is that issue diagnosis and quality reporting takes minutes instead of hours, and issues are resolved 80% faster. And the ability to identify emerging issues and address them proactively has improved quality, reliability, and consumer ratings. Very important. And the last thing there is the entire organization, from assembly plants to quality teams to executives, operate on a common set of key performance indicators. Awesome. And the next one we have is healthcare. It's a quite a different one because we do know that most, if not all, healthcare laboratory employees are PhDs, doctorates, have masters, very educated, very highly educated, also very highly in the data science field. So we can see how the integration goes there and how useful it can be, how useful Palantir will be in this space. So essentially what they did for healthcare at the National Institute of Health was they turbocharged research at this institute. And so essentially the National Institute of Health wanted to enable precision medicine by better understanding how genetic and other factors impact drug efficacy. So scientists had to harmonize the data, whilst informaticians had to do pre-processing work on the data. Existing tools were developed with informaticians in mind, and their complexity prevented researchers from analyzing and publishing their findings in a timely way. So here we can see internal uh, organizational conflict where we have a different set of skills being essentially conflicting with each other because they don't know what the other person's doing, and they are essentially are forced to use the same data, but they don't know how to use the same data. And so this goes into looking at the scale and intricacy of data from high throughput screening robot genome sequences, mass spectrometers, and other instruments made it extremely challenging, where scientists had to do painstakingly harmonized data from many sources. Information had to do substantial pre-processing work on the data, and existing tools were originally developed with information in mind, and their complexity prevented research from accessing, analyzing, and publishing their findings in a timely way. So we have the researchers not being able to use the data, and we have the implementations not being able to publish the data because they don't understand what's happening. And so basically, the National Institute of Health used Foundry to integrate and harmonize scientific data from dozens of internal and external sources. Processing, normalizing, and analyzing this data in Foundry allows new modes of implementation and biologist collaboration via one, direct connection to online and offline experimentations, two, data accessibility for researchers, three, traceability and privacy protections. All through there, yes, these are highly educated people, but a consultation revenue is still generated in those areas where they went through and said, look, you have these data, let us help you figure out a way to view it. They might have learned this faster than the people at a manufacturing plant, but nonetheless, they needed to learn it and they need to use it. And now these um, scientists and researchers, their utility to the National Institute of Health is at the same level as a manufacturing plant worker's utility with Foundry would be to that manufacturing plant. Very important for them to be efficient in their work. And so the impact that this created was that NIH researchers have uncovered insights in hours that used to require months. One lab predicted novel drug combinations for use in an oncology setting, which were then experimentally validated in vitro. An in vivo follow-up is currently underway. If successful, this will lead to a clinical trial. And there was another different lab which validated a gene signature for drug response found in internal experiments. They compared observations from public genomic data with the findings from clinical data, increased their confidence, and defined precise experimental follow-ups. So very important just in general for humans, where we can use the data better to make our processes more efficient and quicker whilst preserving workers and leading to outcomes in hours, essentially, as they said, not months. So I just want to go into the actual solutions that they use there, those three solutions, and just talk about that a little bit. So on the direct connection to online and offline experiments, basically what happened was online and offline experiments are ingested, processed, and normalized automatically. This enabled biologists to view the results of their experiments and plan next steps. And then the data is joined with genomic data and open source data sets for further analysis. So that helped biologists to move forward with their data without, I guess, stopping the informaticians going forward with their data and publishing their findings. So as we can see in the data accessibility for researchers independently analyze experimental data using intuitive templates built by informaticians, with the ability to link those results with past experiments and validate their conclusions. Researchers can quickly understand how likely a compound is to become a successful drug candidate. And from there, we have data provenance is fully, where data provenance is fully traceable, allowing research to examine analytical conclusions. Granular access controls secure all data, ensuring the privacy and security of highly sensitive information. So all through there, we can see a merging of different fields, being able to use the same data essentially to finish the work, but not conflicting with each other's work and being able to work independently. And so the final case study we have is in finance, where a company was looking to grow their business while minimizing risk. So the challenge that Palantir had and the banks had was a large bank receives thousands of new account applications every day. On average, a quarter of those applications are flagged for money laundering risk review and handoff for investigation without any additional context. So to investigate the flagged applications, hundreds of analysts were limited to manual internet and credit searches and could only process a fraction of them each day. So the banks had to basically turn down from there. The banks had to basically turn down the majority of flagged applications to minimize the risk of steep money laundering fines. So I guess like in terms of the bank, they did the right thing. They all the flag like a large like if there's 1,000 uh, bank applications for loans, um, for anything, they if they get flagged, let's say 500 got flagged, and they could only do a quarter of that, so they could do so 125, and the rest of them they were just like, you know what, we can't do this. The rest of them, we're just gonna have to turn it down. And yes, that's good for the general public in terms of the bank not being at risk of fraud. But for the bank itself, as a company, they can't operate professionally or be profitable by turning down all these applications, or even just being able to look at these applications and learn from it to see how future processes can look to minimize these applications in the first place. And that not only reduces the hours of the analyst doing things such as manual internet and credit searches. I'm sure they have better things to do than that. They could, focus on other things to make money, as banks do. And so the solution that Palantir came up with here was they started with a single client view. So the bank accelerated application triage and investigation with an integrated data asset. Employees now have access to more than 50 internal and external sources in one place and can securely search for data on individuals, companies, partners, transactions, accounts, and more. So that's very important to have all that data in one place. And as we've seen in my other video, it's very much it's like a game. It has pictures. It has pictures and words and lines, and you can see everything, and it moves interactively, and it's very much a proactive workspace. It's not a blank space where you kind of get bored just by looking at it. um, and the next thing they had is new models to better surface risk. So their data scientists use Foundry's authoring and testing environment to develop new high signal risk models. By iterating on and deploying their own models, they have cut the number of false positives in half. So I would think a bank would have data scientists. They should. They work with a lot of data. So these guys used Foundry. So data scientists that they had already there, employed at the bank, not the ones that are employed by Palantir. They used Foundry to develop their own models on top of what Foundry built. So there was a view in Foundry where you could do your own coding, which is fantastic for places in applications such as this where the customer does have a technical background. These guys do have technical backgrounds, probably have a master's in data science, have gone on to do various works using data analytics and data models. And so they have a pretty good understanding. So, but now they can use this software and build on top of it. It's not just the software that they give; they can use their own understanding of. They can use their master degrees and put it to work with and create actual profitable growth for the bank and be able to utilize their skills. And so to move on from that, we have the third solution that Palantir came up with, which is providing faster investigations. So because of the new model surface, additional context, because of the new models, which surface additional context on risk, such as multiple entities listing the same address, big no-no. um, Analysts immediately begin assessing the risk of new applications. So obviously, if you have one person, an address makes sense. Two people, sure. If you have 100, where is this address? Is that a hotel? What are we looking at here? Even if it's a hotel, how many people are in a room? What is going on? So these are things that they do. Pretty trivial, but you can look at how to see if you were actually manually trying to find this on the internet, where you type a person's name. I'm sure they didn't type a person's name, but they do their credit searches, credit runs, and they type a person's name, and then address comes up. They write it somewhere, probably in an Excel sheet, and they keep going through it, and then they do Control F, and they find everyone with that name, and like, oh, okay. But that can take hours. This they can just put that credit. They could potentially do a web scrape. I'm just trying to just think on the fly here. Webs maybe wherever they do their credit searches, maybe wherever they use that, whatever software that they use, they could use that software and they could use Palantir on top, Foundry on top, and they could link to both softwares. And from there, they could use that to look through credit searches and use Palantir, and the Palantir could be uploaded onto, the data from the credit searches could be uploaded onto Foundry, and they currently just have a view just come up and they know who's what, where, and why. And if you have a bunch of people showing up at this particular address, it could be kind of funky, and you could call a few of them up and be like, hey, what's going on here? Which is better than you running through each one and kind of trying to figure out what's going on. And obviously, all this is also part of a consultation that Palantir would have been involved in at the very beginning phase of acquiring this large bank, where they would have went and talked to the banks, talked to the data analysts, worked on top, maybe even gave them particular software updates for their particular needs. That is something we've seen that they do in their S1, where they provide more customization rather than generalization, where they wouldn't provide the same product that they would provide to a finance company, and then they would give that to a manufacturing company or a logistics company. They would make sure that each company gets the right application and are consulted in a right manner so they can get the most out of this software that Palantir has built. And from there, we can see the impact that the finance company generated from using Foundry, where analysts now review 30 applications a day, which is up from five. And the bank now screens 100% of flagged applications, up from 30%. So that's a roughly 333% increase. So that's fantastic to see. And 100% of the applications being flagged are being understood by the company is just make me feel better as an employee, just a general customer, to know that banks can use a software such as Palantir to improve their screening process of applications and laundering. And the third is the total false positive flags have decreased by 50%. So as I said before, like maybe it wasn't a false positive, and now they can use these analysts who would have been put to work, going through these flagged risk reviews, and rather than that, they could put these analysts somewhere else. Maybe they could work on stocks. I don't know. They could do anything. But that was essentially the 5 case studies there, looking at different a broad range of the use cases of the company and how widely it's used. We looked at media, we looked at finance, we looked at healthcare, we looked at logistics, and we looked at manufacturing. 5 very different industries, but all are able to use Palantir to increase their data utilization. All these companies have data, and now it's just about using to the best of their abilities, and none of these companies actually put they probably didn't hire new people. I guess that could be a downside, but they didn't fire anyone either. They used the same people that they had and equipped them with Palantir's technology. And once Palantir went in with their consultation and gave the actual customers the ability to use the software that they built, we could see the impact there very much, very well done by the companies. So, final thoughts on this is that it's great to understand just what the company does from a customer perspective. That was the main idea of this presentation, just to see why they did this. Like a lot of times we do see companies where we don't know why they, like, how are they used? Like, we don't know what they do. We know that they're like at a very surface level that they're a such and such company, but how are they used in an everyday case? Which industries use them and how often use them, and how has it impacted them? Not many companies show you that. Palantir has shown me that, and I've seen been able to go through different areas, not just these five um, industries. There are multiple other industries that they helped out in, multiple case studies. One I mentioned, a company that I mentioned before is Airbus. They actually did very similar to manufacturing, where they looked at different parts within an airplane and they see how they can make it more efficient. And for that, they didn't get anyone from the outside. They got a engineer inside the Airbus um, employee employee space, and they gave them with the tools. And obviously, as I said before, consultation. They went in and talked to them, helped them understand the software, and off they went. They played with it, they understood it, they made that company's use of data better. But essentially, I think this is very important. This video presentation title is Palantir at Work, and how it doesn't displace workers. It is truly a company that tries to empower workers. That's their main idea, and really bring the most out of their workers, rather than hiring these kind of revolving door of workers not being up to standards because they can't move fast enough. Rather than focusing on that, look at how to make it more vertically integrated and make it more utilized at a company. We look at most of the CEOs at a company, most of the executives, they've been with the company for 10, 15 years. But most of the people at the bottom level, they can't be for that long, because they usually, if they don't go up in management, then they are basically seen as expendable. With the software platform, they can be more useful for the company, for a lack of a better word, and they can be more valuable to the company. And not only that, they can be paid more because their knowledge is important now. Their knowledge, before, their knowledge could have been just their knowledge could have been automated essentially. Now their knowledge is really based on thinking. It's really based on IQ. Um, it's really based on like thinking outside the box, really thinking as a innovator rather than just a simple robot. So that's the main idea of Palantir, and I think that's something as we go forward in this digital economy, in this more automated economy, this will come into place, and Palantir will play a major role with companies where companies will opt to use Palantir rather than any other software company, even though they might automate processes. The insights that are brought by employees to make the company better is more vertical. Fortunately, it's not just faster. We can see a lot of companies where they say, we grew processes faster, not we uh, grew vertically, where they integrated more customers in, and they were able to actually skip processes. So if we look at companies such as Tesla, um, they didn't just hire more workers. They looked at the manufacturing level and they looked at the data, and now we recently saw in their, not in the Q3 but in the Q2, in Battery Day, we saw that they changed the way they manufactured their rear end of the car, and they made it more or less into two pieces. That's not something that you get by just throwing more people at it, like physically, like just put more people into the firing line, and they'll just have to work faster. You can't do that. That's something that's probably an engineer, someone who's been working on cars for years, and they were able to use the data side of things, data technology that Tesla would have, and they were able to put their insights to work, and they integrated this into a easier manufacturing. And we can see, if you have a look inside a manufacturing plant of Tesla, most of it's automated, but the engineers themselves, they can't be automated, and that's the main thing here, and that's the main thing for Palantir. These manufacturing engineers, they can't be automated. They are the most important people. Just at a surface level as well, they're the most important people. If you look at any manufacturing plant, if you give them this ability to think, to be able to use data, to have a look at insights, to gather their knowledge and put it to work, they can really provide great insights into the company and really grow the company at a far greater level than what they would do if they were on the manufacturing plant and they're just on the assembly line, just putting a part on another part. That's very slow, and they're gonna get replaced. With Palantir at their side, they can't get replaced because the knowledge that they have cannot be displaced. So basically, with that being said, I just want to thank you for your time. Let me know what you think in the comments below of Palantir. Let me know what these case studies that I've outlined, the different industries, and if you have any use cases for Palantir, please let me know. And finally, I just want to say, don't forget to like and basically smash that like button if you enjoyed this video, and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you guys in the next video.